Allow me to introduce myself.
I am the last sane sports fan.
I am a genius by trade.
I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another View from the Midwest. We're going to take another quick trip around the sports world, so let's do it. The NHL playoffs are in full force right now, and I have to say that I was a little bit wrong when I kind of judged things after game one of all the games. It was fairly disappointing through those games, but it's managed to be turned around. Most of the series, with the exception of the Montreal-Ottawa series, have been tied up, and obviously after last night's games, a few teams have taken 2-1 series leads. But the quality of hockey has picked up overall. Still yet to be seen who's going to be playing. The Chicago Blackhawks, though, they've got themselves a goaltender here in the making. They've got a goaltender controversy, to be sure. Potentially for next season. For the rest of the playoffs, it's kind of a situation where you just go with who you feel is going to give you the best chance. Corey Crawford has been the man for their team throughout the last few seasons. He's won Stanley Cups. You cannot fault him completely. But Darling is just that. He has been the darling of the Chicago Blackhawks fans for the last couple games. He came in game number one, pretty much stole that game for them. Yes, the Chicago Blackhawks needed to score goals to overcome a 3-0 deficit and come back and win. But Scott Darling came in relief and still got shot on 45 times, I do believe. So he was the reason that they won in game number one. He was a big reason why they took home game number three. He's still allowed 2 goals, and Nashville is not going away in this series. But Darling is definitely a big reason why the Chicago Blackhawks right now are ahead 2-1 in the series. I've been told that the NBA playoffs are underway, and the reason I didn't do something regarding that is basically, as Austin Powers would say, that thing ain't my bag, baby. No, I just kid around. The NBA playoffs are in full swing now. Now we'll give you a quick little preview as to what's going on. We'll start over in the East with the Atlanta Hawks taking on the 8th seed. The Atlanta Hawks ended up with the best record in the Eastern Conference. The Brooklyn Nets with the 8th seed. The Nets, I don't see this series going anywhere. I think they might steal a game. I do think they'll steal a game once it goes back to Brooklyn. But the Nets were an under 500 team. They're already down 1-0. They did keep game number one fairly close. Only lost by 7. 99-92 was the final score in that one. But unless Atlanta just sleepwalks through this series, I cannot see them losing to a team that finished so far behind them, double digits in games behind, as Atlanta had an excellent regular season record and Brooklyn obviously under 500. The next series is obviously the Cavaliers. They got the number 2 seed in the East. They're taking on the Boston Celtics, who are the number 7 seed. Cavaliers won by 13, 113-100 in game number 1. If they don't sweep, they're going to win in 5. I can't see Boston putting up much of a fight. Boston actually has done better this year than most people gave them credit for. Brad Stevens, their coach, has done a much better job than I would have given him credit for initially. I thought he was going to be kind of a flop coming in from Butler in college. He's done a decent job with the pieces that he's been given, but I don't see them having any shot at taking down LeBron James. The Bulls and the Bucks, this one could be close. A lot of it's going to be dependent on the Chicago Bulls' health. Right now I just saw a tweet that Kirk Heinrich is going to be out for tonight's game as the Bulls have game number 2 in Chicago. They won game 1, 103-91, fairly handily right there. But the Bucks, even though you don't hear anything about them because they're kind of in that basketball wasteland of Wisconsin in terms of pro ranks, obviously, they're no pushover. They're not going to be any easy team for Chicago to beat. But if Chicago stays healthy, I see them winning. It might take 6 games, but I think the Bulls will come through in that series. The next one, wrapping up the Eastern Conference, will be the Raptors against the Wizards. The Wizards, the 5 seed, Raptors 4. Wizards took game number 1 on the road, winning in overtime, 93-86. Obviously, not too much offense being played there comparatively to the other games. This is kind of a pick'em game in the series as well. Toronto, they were so steady throughout the beginning of the season, and then they fell off towards the middle, towards the end, and including. I'm going to pick the Wizards in this one. I think Toronto is, I think it's going to go 7. I think the Wizards will probably feed off of Paul Pierce just enough, and John Wall will do just enough to get them over the hump. Heading out west, the number 1 seed was the Golden State Warriors taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. I think the Pelicans are a better team than an 8 seed, but I don't think they match up scoring-wise with Golden State. I think Golden State takes that series. The Rockets versus the Mavericks. The Mavericks have been underwhelming this year. They made some moves, they made some key additions, but they haven't panned out. I think the Rockets take this one. I think it's going to be close. It'll probably go at least 6 games, but I think the Rockets take that one. The interesting series right now going on is the Clippers versus the Spurs. And this is a 3-6 matchup, and interestingly enough, the Spurs are the 6th. And they lost game 1 in fairly handily fashion. The Clippers won 107-92. I still have to side with the Spurs in this one just because they have so much experience, so much more talent than the Clippers do. They don't have as much athleticism, not nearly as much athleticism, but I still think unless the Spurs, unless this is the series where age just catches up with them the way it did against Miami a couple years ago in the finals, I still see the Spurs ended up pulling this one out. The other series out west is 5 versus 4, the Grizzlies versus the Blazers. And right now the Grizzlies are ahead 1-0. They won 100-86. So the Blazers not really showing good form in game number 1. If the Blazers want to win this series, it's going to come down to one man. They have to be led by LaMarcus Aldridge. He's been an excellent player all season, but he is going to have to step it up even more in the playoffs. Portland just doesn't have the depth, I think, to really match up 1 through 6, even 7 with Memphis. Portland has some excellent players. They've got some good guard play. But if LaMarcus Aldridge doesn't do everything he can to win this series, then I think Memphis ends up winning that series. Lastly, want to look at a quick little thing with soccer. Chelsea, right now, they've pretty much wrapped up the English Premier League. Congratulations to them. It's not officially over, but it's over. Bundesliga, Bayern Munich is in charge of that one. They're pretty much going to wrap that up. The only interesting race is pretty much in the Spanish La Liga. I think Barcelona will probably carry out that one and win that one, although Real Madrid, they're always dangerous there, but they did just lose Bale to an injury. He's going to be out at least 3 weeks. That'll pretty much wipe him out for most of the rest of the regular season. The other interesting topic in soccer right now is Liverpool. They dropped out of the FA Cup over the weekend with a disappointing, extremely disappointing 2-1 loss against Aston Villa. Right now there are 2 key components that are kind of on the Liverpool table. Right now Steven Gerrard, the guy is a legend. Steven Gerrard's going to play with the LA Galaxy. I think he'll do an excellent job in the MLS. Right now it's extremely sad to see the way that he's going out. The stomp that he had against Manchester United, which got him suspended. He's been injured. He hasn't played well in terms of form at all. It's just an extremely disappointing way for such a legend in the Liverpool ranks to go out. He's still got a few weeks left. Maybe he'll get a few games here or there, but right now it's just looking like an extremely disappointing end to Steven Gerrard's Liverpool career. On the flip side of that, it could be the end of a Liverpool career for Coach Brendan Rodgers. He is the manager for right now. He still has a couple weeks to try to get this season turned around. I still say that Brendan Rodgers deserves another year. I understand in the world of professional football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, those things don't come around too often. Usually it's win now, otherwise we're going to find somebody else. But who is out there that is better than Brendan Rodgers? There is potentially one name, but everybody's going to be going after him. Manchester City's going to be going after him. There are teams in Germany going to be going after him. There are teams in England going to be going after him. It's going to be a big race for Jurgen Klopp. If you're Liverpool, if I am in charge of Liverpool right now, I work some of those backdoor dealings because we all know that they happen. We all know that phone calls are made and people have secret lunches and clandestine dinners and whatnot to kind of put the feelers out there. If I am in charge of Liverpool, I put the feelers out there. I see if Jurgen Klopp is willing to come. If he is not fully on board with taking over the Liverpool Football Club, then I don't think you get rid of Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers, let us not forget, had this team as the best team. They did not lose from late December until I believe it was mid-February, and they had a bunch of clean sheets in that time. It is only because they have lost now to Arsenal, Manchester United, and now Aston Villa in the FA Cup that his pedigree is questioned once again. He had an incredibly slow start to the season. That doomed him a lot. He's had an incredibly poor run of form here the last 2 or 3 weeks. That has kind of doomed him. But I don't necessarily think that should cost him his job because I think you've seen enough from him as a tactician, making changes to this team. The poorest thing that Brendan Rodgers has done so far is I think he's kind of proven that he's not necessarily the best judge of talent without them being on his training ground. When he sees what they're capable of, when he gets them in practice, he's very good at judging who should be out on the field, where they should be played, what kind of team he can put out there. But in terms of looking at players elsewhere, I think he has proven that he's not necessarily the best judge of talent in who to bring in to Liverpool Football Club. We'll have to see how that shakes out. Still 2 or 3 weeks left. It's very unlikely that Liverpool makes it into the Champions League race, but you never know how things can shape out, especially after last season's championship one, in which Manchester United managed to overtake Liverpool due to various factors. But that's the world of football. We'll have to wait and see. That will wrap it up for today's View from the Midwest. I will see you next time.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much